Television news tonight. We do hope you had yourselves a productive Thursday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition. Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente presented to Parliament the achievements in social welfare, including the fact that over 1.5 million Rwandans were lifted out of poverty between 2017 and 2024. Rwanda and Uganda have committed to strengthening their cooperation, enhancing bilateral relations, and removing all existing barriers affecting cross-border movement between the two countries. On the international scale, Israel's EU and NATO ambassador has said Israel started the conflict with Iran as it didn't have any other choice and warned that the threat from Tehran's nuclear ambitions could spread beyond the Middle East. Once again, we're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali, and I bring you tonight's edition is Martina Abera. Now, Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente presented to Parliament the achievements in social welfare, including the fact that over 1.5 million Rwandans were lifted out of poverty between 2017 and 2024. This progress is attributed to several government initiatives aimed at improving citizens' livelihoods as well as strong economic growth. William Evans Mutabazi has more on this report.
Between 2017 and 2024, poverty in Rwanda decreased from 39.8% to 27.4%, a drop of 12.4%. Extreme poverty also declined by 5.9%, falling from 11.3% in 2017 to 5.4%. Life expectancy rose from 66.2 years to 70 years. Citizens acknowledge improvements in their living conditions, attributing them to government initiatives.
We expressed our desire to have this bridge built in several local gatherings at the village levels, and it's here. We're grateful to the government that they delivered this project to us. Firstly, I want to thank the government and His Excellency, the President, Paul Kagame, for always hearing us out and responds with utter urgency. Locals were the first to ask our leaders for a new maternity ward. Their request was met, and we now have a new ward.
While Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Dr. Edward Ngirente, addressed Parliament on the progress made in social welfare, he explained some of the strategies that led to the reduction in poverty.
byagiye bigira impact nziza bigira uruhare rwiza mu mibereho y'abanyarwanda.
Everything shows that the government's different activities and programs had a positive impact on the well-being of Rwandans. The reduction in poverty was due to a number of government programs that supported the needy, for example, the Girinka program, VUP, and others. This comprehensive package saw people out of extreme poverty. The Prime Minister also informed members of Parliament and the senators that Rwanda also tackled unemployment through private sector engagement and expanding access to electricity infrastructure. Unemployment rates also dropped from 17.3% to 14%. But this also shows that we still have a long way to go because this percentage is still high. Our desire is that this further drops. The number of unemployed people is almost 780,000. This is not a small number, but government's different approaches will reduce this number further. There was also an increase in the number of people employed from 760,000 to 1.3 million. This was a 75.1% increase. The health sector, more health facilities were constructed, and the number of doctors, nurses and midwives increased. The number of medicines covered by community health insurance, Mutuelle de Santé, increased from 800 to 1,500. Maternal and child mortality rates declined as more women delivered in health facilities. In education, More classrooms were built, reducing travel distances and overcrowding, which helped reduce school dropouts. The school feeding program was also expanded. The Prime Minister also noted that in the second phase of the National Strategy for Transformation, NST2, all these efforts, grouped under 3 pillars of economy, governance and social welfare, will continue to be implemented to further improve the well-being of all Rwandans. William Evans, RwandaTV News.
Technical teams from Rwanda and DR Congo have reached an initial text of the peace agreement that is expected to be signed by the two countries' ministers on June 27th, according to a joint statement released after United States-mediated peace talks on Wednesday, June 18th in Washington, D.C. Adam Squizera with more.
Building on the Coalition of Principles signed on April 25th, 2025, the agreement was developed over 3 days of constructive dialogue regarding political, security, and economic interests. The agreement includes provision on respect for territorial integrity, a prohibition of hostilities, disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism that incorporates the CONOPS of October 31st, 2024, facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access, and the regional economic integration framework. Regional security and political analysts say this move as a positive beginning for both sides.
It brings hope because at least it's one step forward that was made, and it is a commendable step. What we have witnessed or what we have heard or read from the media is that technical teams have met. They have agreed on a number of issues, and both parties agreed to not sign, but that the document was acceptable for signing by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. And if this happens, I think it will be a very good step forward towards resolving the crisis that has been observed between the two countries of recent.
However, Alois Mutabingwa believes that political will is essential in securing peace and stability in the region, beyond simply relying on the signing of agreements.
Joint statement is a statement of hope, at least to bring it to the know of the public that there is an engagement going on. But in terms of the outcomes, we can only wait and see. Regarding the degree of optimism, I'm reserved. I'm reserved in the sense that the enabling ground for optimism is the political will. I'm not seeing that happening with Kinshasa today, given what has been going on all this while, including some conspiracies against Rwanda, conspiring with some other African countries. You saw the Central African Economic Community, and the grudges that are not just reserved but demonstrated by the conduct of the administration of Congo. And if the talks are to succeed, they can succeed only when there is a will to restore, to control the damage and restore some cordiality between the countries.
These peace talks were also attended by the US and Qatar. Two countries are currently playing a leading role in supporting peace efforts in the region. Analysts believe their involvement could yield tangible results.
I think we should dissociate these two issues. That's why there are two processes that are parallel, one being conducted in Doha, another one in Washington. So Washington deals primarily it deals with the issue that opposes Rwanda as a state and DRC as a state. Whereas what is happening in Doha, in the state of Qatar, is a peace negotiation between Congolese, the Congolese government, and their opponents, which are AFC M23. So if these two processes, as I said earlier, can be concluded at the same time, then I think we'll be moving in the right direction.
But From what I've said and what is very evident, it's one thing to negotiate and sign papers. It's another thing to conduct oneself along the lines of what has been signed. We've seen Kinshasa leaving meeting rooms, having even signed documents, communique, etc., and going out to announce something totally the opposite. I hope that does not happen again. If there is anything the US and Doha can do, is to make Kinshasa live by what has been signed. Otherwise, the causes of insecurity and instability are known. The solutions are supposed to be picked and implemented, but only when there is a political commitment.
Masad Bolos, the U.S. Senior Advisor for Africa, expressed satisfaction in having led the 3-day negotiations that resulted in this agreement between Rwanda and DRC. He announced that the U.S. is set to host the official signing for the agreement on June 27th, to be attended by the foreign ministers for both countries, which will be witnessed by the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Adams Kwizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Adams, for that report. Rwanda and Uganda have committed to strengthening their cooperation, enhancing bilateral relations, and removing all existing barriers affecting cross-border movement between the two countries. This was emphasized during a meeting held in Nyagatare district, which brought together representatives from both countries, including local government officials and private sector stakeholders, to review and establish improved frameworks for advancing friendly relations. The Rwempasha-Kizinga border post, one of the 3 border crossings linking Rwanda and Uganda in Nyagatare district, has now been in use for over 2 years. Residents from both countries say this border has eased trade and significantly strengthened social bonds between their communities. The strong relationship between the people of Rwanda and Uganda was reaffirmed during this bilateral meeting, which was preceded by a presentation of the resolutions from a previous meeting held in March 2023 titled Rwanda and Uganda Cross-Border Security Meeting. That meeting had brought together delegations from both countries with the goal of improving and advancing bilateral relations. Anthony Namara, Commissioner for Local Economic Development in Uganda's Ministry of Local Government, stated that a joint mechanism has been established to facilitate trade across the border.
There is a joint mechanism in place where border officials share experience, they share information, and they have been working together to combat illegal crossings by directing the communities to go through gazetted areas to avoid any form of mischief that breach the provisions within our respective laws. But above all, what we encourage and what we have been working on is sensitization of our communities to enjoy what is provided within the ambit of the free movement of goods and services as provided within the East African community.
Prudence Rubingisa, governor of Rwanda's Eastern Province, also highlighted that the relationship between Rwanda and Uganda goes beyond geographical proximity, as the two nations share cultural and historical ties. He emphasized the need for strong political will to foster bilateral cooperation, particularly in combating cross-border crimes. In addition to the leadership of the Eastern Province, the meeting was also attended by officials from the Northern Province, leaders from Gicumbi, Burera and Nyagatare districts, as well as local leaders from sectors bordering Uganda and private sector representatives from both countries. The Rwanda Defense Force has enrolled in its ranks a new cohort of young men and women who graduated today at the Basic Military Training Center, Nasho, following the completion of 6 months of rigorous military training. The enrollment ceremony was officiated by the RDF Chief of Defense Staff, General M.K. Mubarak, and attended by service chiefs, generals, senior and junior officers, as well as other ranks. During the event, the graduates demonstrated to the RDF leadership the skills acquired throughout their training, including skills in arms handling and various tactical drills, underscoring their readiness for operational duties. In his remarks, General M.K. Mubarak congratulated the new soldiers for their hard work and determination throughout the demanding training period. He welcomed them into the RDF family and urged them to uphold a high level of discipline and observe RDF's ethics and values as they integrate and work alongside their fellow service members. He also encouraged them to be inspired by their predecessors, apply and share the knowledge and skills gained during the training while protecting Rwanda's sovereignty and safeguarding its citizens. He further reminded them to be prepared to serve in a multinational environment during peacekeeping operations. The commandant of the Basic Military Training Center, Nasho, Major General J.B. Nguruwon Sanga, emphasized that the graduates underwent intense military training ranging from arms and combat drills, among others, and stressed that their commitment demonstrated their readiness for future military operations. The Ministry of Youth and Arts Development believes it is essential for young people to make good use of available opportunities in order to reduce the unemployment rate in Rwanda. This was revealed in an exclusive interview focused on a youth competition in the construction sector conducted by our colleague Enora Gladys with Tetero Solange, the Director General of Youth Empowerment at the Ministry of Youth and Arts.
Gahunda igezweho ni gahunda y'urubyiruko rugomba gutsindira imirimo mu mihanda. Tuyita gahunda yo kubungabunga no gufata neza imihanda y'igitaka.
The current program is one aimed at engaging youth in road construction jobs. It is a program that has been running for 3 years, led by the Ministry of Youth in collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Infrastructure. We came together to create job opportunities for young people who have completed studies in civil engineering, recognizing the need to employ them in road works, especially since many existing roads were damaged, which hindered trade and limited people's access to development. We realized we could solve both problems at once, the issue of youth unemployment and the issue of deteriorating roads. We started with 158 youth-led companies that compete for contracts to maintain rural roads. Each company is made up of 3 young people, one who studied civil engineering, one who studied construction, and another who studied accounting. These 3 join forces to form a company and compete for a contract to maintain a road that is no longer than 20 kilometers. As the Ministry of Youth, we believe that young people can be found everywhere in agriculture, construction, the arts, so we aim to create opportunities across all these sectors. That's why we identified road maintenance as a pressing national issue. When roads are damaged, the country loses a lot economically, trade decreases, transportation becomes difficult, and other problems arise. We decided to focus on roads because, first of all, young people have the energy, skills, capacity, and motivation. Most of them who studied civil engineering or construction were struggling to find decent jobs, yet many roads were deteriorating. That's why we made the decision to invest in road construction and maintenance, solving both the problem of youth unemployment and that of damaged infrastructure.
The International Labour Organization is planning to distribute $200,000 among 10 youth-led tech enterprises, with the funds awarded to those that demonstrate strong potential to create large-scale employment opportunities. According to Consolatrice Byiringiro of ILO Rwanda, the smallest grant will be $10,000, equivalent to about 14 million Rwandan francs, while the highest grant will be $50,000, around 75 million Rwandan francs.
The goal is to support institutions. We have 3 main categories of institutions: TVET institutions, business development service providers, social enterprises, and NGOs. And the goal is to enhance the skills for them to be able to implement their projects, and secondly, to strengthen the entrepreneurship ecosystem by supporting these business development service providers that are providing this knowledge, and lastly, to support the inclusive digital skills in the business sector. So basically, to maximize the emerging opportunities that are coming in the sector. They have to have projects that have been piloted in a specific area, and they're looking to expand these projects. So the reason we're looking at the piloted project is because we want to support in the expansion of this initiative, hoping that it has been already tested and now it's looking for expansion. We're providing technical support to the winning institutions who would provide them also financial support, and this financial support goes from $10,000 to $50,000.
Alex Nhare, the CEO of the ICT Chamber in the Private Sector Federation, has noted that this initiative is among those that will help the country to achieve its goals.
NST2 alignment is really there. One, the 1 million coders program, which looks at developing or training, skilling young people with digital skills, basic digital skills, and then 500,000 with advanced digital skills. So where we see this really contributing is mobilizing the community, the technology community, as well as the business development services providers, TVET organizations, NGOs and NPOs, into the same effort, into the same strategy of delivering and creating jobs for young people, but not just creating them for them, rather giving them and equipping them with resources where they can do it themselves.
Rwanda aims to create 250,000 new jobs each year until 2029. As part of its strategy to advance technology, the country also targets to have at least 1 million coders and 500,000 highly skilled tech professionals, particularly from the youth demographic.
Moments. Laying hoops. Giving away. Making moves. Breakfast with family. Inyanje is always there. Whatever the occasion, whatever the moment, always ask for Inyanje.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inka imwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njye muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byarangiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
Muyobozi wa sosiyete, turakwibutsa ko buri sosiyete isabwa n'itegeko kubika ibitabo bya sosiyete ndetse no gushyikiriza RDB amakuru abikubiyemo. Ibyo bitabo birimo igitabo cy'abanyamigabane, icy'abagenewe inyungu ku migabane, inyandiko y'amakuru ya sosiyete, ibaruramari ngarukamwaka n'izindi. Gutanga amakuru y'ugenewe inyungu ku migabane wanyura kuri bo.rdb.rw, naho gutanga izindi nyandiko ukanyura kuri org.rdb.rw.
Welcome to other stories making headlines on the global scene. Israel's EU and NATO ambassador has said Israel started the conflict with Iran as it didn't have any other choice and warned that the threat from Tehran's nuclear ambitions could spread beyond the Middle East. Euronews with more.
For nearly a week, Israel and Iran have been trading strikes in an escalating conflict that has already claimed hundreds of lives. In an interview with Euronews, Israel's ambassador to the EU and NATO, Haim Regev, said Israel had no choice but to attack.
I would like to mention that Iran possesses threat not only to Israel, to the region and also to Europe. They are involved in promoting terror. They are involved in provocation. They are involved in many acts, European prisoner they hold, and so they are already the main cause for instability in the region and for the world.
In his view, Israel's strikes on Iran's military capabilities also indirectly benefit Ukraine.
Iran is part of the group, anti-Western group, the group that support Russia in the war, by the way, harming Iranian missiles facilities is saving Ukrainian life. By harming their ability to supply missiles and drones to Russia, by that we are contributing or diminishing their capability to harm through Russia, Ukrainian.
While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said he wouldn't rule out targeting Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, Regev said regime change is not the main goal.
The target of this military operation is to remove the nuclear threat and the missile threat. As I mentioned, Iran have a plan, a concrete and operative plan. And this is the main goals of our military operation right now.
At the same time, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Thursday that to achieve the military objectives, Khamenei should no longer continue to exist.
The IMF's chief has warned that the European lifestyle is at risk if productivity isn't boosted and that progress on the single market needs to be a priority for the European Union. Euronews once more.
Europe must boost its productivity or risk losing its way of life, said the head of the IMF on Wednesday. Kristalina Georgieva spoke to Euronews ahead of the release of a new IMF statement on Thursday.
In Europe, we enjoy being lifestyle superpower. Unless we become more productive, we may lose this advantage. I don't want Europe to become the United States of America, but I want productivity in Europe and the functionality of Europe to go up.
The IMF expects Eurozone growth to be 0.8% in 2025 and 1.2% in 2026. It said that one way to improve output is to make more progress on the single market. This would support the free movement of goods, services, capital and people between single market nations.
There are no tariffs within Europe, but it doesn't mean there are no barriers in Europe, regulatory and otherwise.
The IMF estimated that the barriers to free movement in the single market are equivalent to a 44% tariff on goods. For services, the tariff equivalent would be 110%. The group argued that improving the single market requires lowering regulatory differences between countries. It has also called for more labour mobility and progress on the capital markets union. The CMU aims to allow investment to flow seamlessly across member states. This would make it easier for businesses in one EU state to source funding from another EU state. In turn, this would support company growth and create jobs. The IMF said that boosting productivity is key for Europe's resilience as global trade and geopolitical tensions threaten growth.
And that Euronews story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we close off, let's have a recap of our headlines. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente presented to Parliament the achievements in social welfare, including the fact that over 1.5 million Rwandans were lifted out of poverty between 2017 and 2024. Rwanda and Uganda have committed to strengthening their cooperation, enhancing bilateral relations, and removing all existing barriers affecting cross-border movements between the two countries. On the international scale, Israel's EU and NATO ambassador has said Israel started the conflict with Iran as it didn't have any other choice, and warned that the threat from Tehran's nuclear ambitions could spread beyond the Middle East. On that note, we've come to the end of tonight's English Bulletin, and on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera, and up until next time, stay safe and have a good night.